Yes. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is a kind of briefing. This is the first time that DotAsia is doing this. Thank you for joining us today. We're trying to give a briefing on what we call the Sponsor Community Project. So it's a program that DotAsia put together to support community projects around Asia. So just as a note before we start, we'll talk a little bit about the background, and towards the end, please feel free to ask questions and so on. So I'll jump right into it. It should take just 10 minutes or so, a little bit about the background and the process for the Sponsor Community Project, which we call SCP. And we'll also invite Rebecca and June to add a little bit to what I talk about. But I guess we'll start. The program really starts from at the heart of it starts from the vision and mission of DotAsia, and the vision being especially leveraging the DotAsia top-level domain as a support for a collaborative Asia and supporting the overall development of the Asia-Pacific internet community. And our vision and our mission also to reinvest some of the surpluses that come in from DotAsia. So as we go through, there are really three sets of policies that support the SCP, the Sponsor Community Project. And it is the vision and mission, which is operationalized into what we call our core values and core competence framework. We have the application process, which you can find in another document called basically the SCP process. And then in the completion of each particular supported project, we have a report, and then a template is provided. I'll come back to these, but I'll just let you know that these are three areas, three sets of policies or documents that sort of describes the entire project, describe the entire program. So a little bit about the background. When DotAsia started, DotAsia ourselves, of course, is a not-for-profit organization. There was an interest to dedicate funds to support the community development around Asia Pacific, especially in the internet community. This is something that is put together to ensure that, let's say if DotAsia is not does not have surplus, we would still allocate some funds to support community development. And how that is done is that a certain amount of money from each domain registration or renewal is set aside for these projects. But how it works itself is that it is through DotAsia sponsor members who are CCTLDs in the region. And a very important part is that DotAsia actually relies on our sponsor members to vet the organizers and projects. So incoming projects and the organizers of those projects are ones that would be in touch with the CCTLD, particular CCTLD, and that it's through CCTLDs or our sponsor members that we obtain these projects that are submitted, and funds for each particular CCTLD is based on the registrations of .asia domains in that particular CC locality. So you would see that, for certain CC localities, the amount of funds would be larger. Some of the funds are, smaller because there are not many .asia domain names registered in that particular CC locality. But very importantly, these funds are not allocated to sponsor members. In fact, we cannot send money to sponsor members because as a not-for-profit organization, we cannot be seen as providing revenue or dividends to our to any of our members. But the unused funds, so if sponsor members do not use the funds, they expire and then they go on to support other community projects that DotAsia supports. So SCP really is only one of the many ways that DotAsia work with its members and the Asia Pacific Internet community. In terms of some of the highlights of some of the projects that we do beyond the SCP projects, actually, many of you already know, maybe one of our flagship projects is NetMission.Asia. So funds go to support youth engagement program on internet governance and so on. We also serve as the secretariat for the APRIGF, the Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum. Again, funds that are unused in these projects will flow into supporting these activities. In 2016, when the United Nations put into effect the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, DotAsia launched the Agitora project, which supports the SDGs and how it relates to the internet. And last year, we started the Eco-Internet Index, which looks at the eco-friendliness of internet infrastructure around Asia Pacific. So these, again, are some of the projects that is supported. Of course, a lot of it, the funding comes from DotAsia registrations, as mentioned. But this is, sort of generally just to let you know the works of DotAsia, including the youth element and also internet governance. We have, of course, supporting the development of DotAsia market itself. We have the Agitora project, which supports the SDGs and how it relates to the internet. And of course, these four little icons is what we use to describe the works of DotAsia. And the last one is the governance of the organization. So this is, in a nutshell, how we ensure that every DotAsia domain really contributes to internet development in Asia. So I'll come back to now to walk through the SCP program itself. So as you can see on our website, in fact, when you scroll down further from the communities page, you will see that there is the community projects and contribution. And when you click to go to the sponsor community projects page, because today we have the webinar, you see this, and you can join the webinar here. But basically, this provides a little bit of background, and I will explain this chart a little bit further. But before that, just as a look back, the program was put in place by the DotAsia board back in 2009, and over the years, different projects have been supported, and this is the listing of the projects that came before. In 2021, actually, starting from projects in 2020, we have put in place a reporting mechanism also for projects that are complete to report back. So you can see that different projects, after they're complete, they provide us with a report on the social impact and also what was done and how the funds were used. For example, here you can see we supported the Korea Internet Governance Forum, and you can see that KRIGF.Asia is actually used for that particular project, and some of the social impact that was created and how the program went and how it was promoted, how DotAsia support actually helped make it a more successful program. So that's basically what's on the website. And now going back to the process itself. So as you see, this chart gives you really a good sense of how it works. The funds accrual on the right-hand side, as you see, each regular .asia domain registration and renewal, a certain fund is set aside, and that funds is collected, and basically every year we send a funds allocation report to different organizations, to basically all the sponsor members of .asia, and that's where you will see, how many funds are in there. But just walking you quickly through this, the first step basically is, of course, filling in the SCP proposal, and I'll just quickly jump to it. This is the process itself, and it has a form that it's fairly straightforward and self-explanatory. The idea is that the program does have a very lightweight evaluation process, because we are depending on sponsor members who are the CCTLDs in the region to help us vet the program itself. So, so a couple of highlights. So we really, the SCP proposals are sponsored by a .asia member, which is a CCTLD in the region, and we expect to work closely with the sponsor member through the process. But the funds themselves are not provided to sponsors. Another couple of important items I think I'll highlight is that the requirements for the SCPs basically are most importantly, first of all, it has to align with the .asia core values and core competence, and how that is organized is basically that is an operationalized version of our vision and mission. And you can see basically it talks about 6 particular areas, but the core values are the important parts, that the project is Asia at heart, that it has some economic viability, and also most importantly that it's community driven. And then to develop a core competence and the mission. And you will see actually in the application form, it will also repeat some of the core values part and core competence part. And in the questions themselves, they actually reflect those. And this is used to gauge whether it is the project is aligned with the .asia vision and mission. The other one that is important is that because we are a Hong Kong charitable organization, what is called the Section 88 organization, we also abide by the rules for being charitable, to fund charitable initiatives, and therefore the SCP project should also be an acceptable charitable project. And this is the link to the guide, and I'll quickly jump to there. And in Appendix 1, there are really 4 areas, and I think that we try and make sure that those projects cover. They either have a sense of relief of poverty, advancement of education. Number 2 is really the key areas, the key area, because a lot of the projects may be youth engagement projects or even conferences. They would qualify as nonprofit making kind of education programs. And then religion is probably less of a likely scenario, although there are potential ones, to support religion to come online, for example. And then the 4th area is something that's not included here, but the 4th area seems to be very broad. However, that only applies to Hong Kong projects. So, it's really, and that's a broad beneficial to the community part, but this, because it's a Hong Kong organization, this is for Hong Kong mostly. So mainly it's about some sort of relief of poverty or scholarship programs, or kind of education. But as you can see, most of the previous projects, they would qualify in those schemes based on our understanding as well. So after the funds approval process itself is also quite straightforward. It's also included at the end of this particular document. It takes a bit of time, so please give us some lead time before your project starts to go through the process. and we encourage you to work with our team before you make the submission. Once it's submitted, we take a little bit of time to organize and check for the completeness, and then the first process is going through the board community project committee, and that's the BCC within the DotAsia board. It first considers the application, and then two other parts of the community, the governance structure is also involved, including the BFC, the Board Finance Committee, and also the Advisory Council. And finally, give us probably a couple of months to make sure that we have it properly tabled and approved in the board, and that completes the process. So really going back here, you would see, these little arrows here just explains that it first goes to the board community project committee, and then it also gets feedback from the BFC and the AC, and then eventually the DotAsia board approves the funds. And then this is number 3, and then finally, after the completion of the project, then what happens is that we ask the organization that carried out the project to provide a report back on, as mentioned, as I showed you before, some of the social impact and some of the happenings, and how the fund actually helped the program, and so on. So this is a template, and again, it's a fairly simple form, and so we also work very closely with the organizations that receive the grants to work through the report as well. So with this, that's actually hopefully it gives you a good idea of what the SCP project is about. And now I would like to turn to Rebecca to give you a little bit of presentation of the reports that you usually get every year. Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. This is Rebecca from DotAsia. So this is a sample of the annual SCP fund statement or report that we send to CCTLD members every year. You should have received your statement around end of December last year, and that's for our fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. So in this Excel file, there are 4 spreadsheets. So the first one is the SCP statement. So this is a brief statement showing the opening balance. That means the funds accrued before the beginning of the fiscal year, and then the accrual for the year. And you also see the withdrawal for the period, meaning that if you have used any of the funds for any projects during the year, it will show the amount there. And also the expired portion, because the SCP funds do have an expiry, it will be 4 years after the accrual, so it will expire if you do not use them within 4 years. So if any funds have been expired during the year, you will also see that in the expired portion, and then you'll see the ending balance, which means that the funds that you can actually use for future projects. That's the ending balance amount that you should refer to. And then the second spreadsheet, Emily, if you can click to the accrual. So this is the sheet where it shows the monthly accrual for the year. So you actually see the list of the 12 months and the amount accrued, and then the total amount. And then the third sheet is the withdrawal. So if during the year you have used any of the funds for any project, you will see it listed here. This is just an example here. For example, you've used $1,000 for a certain community project, and you'll see that listed here. And it will correspond back to the SCP statement. And the last sheet is the historical record sheet. So this is showing that all the years, listing every year, the amount accrued for the year, any withdrawal during the year, any used portion, expired portion, and any remaining portion accrued for the year, and also the expiry date for that particular amount. So these are the 4 sheets in the file that you will see, and I believe that those are should be pretty straightforward, but please do contact me if you have any questions about your specific statement.
Thank you, Rebecca. And so hopefully that's quite straightforward and self-explanatory. Before I go into questions, I guess I'll also go over to June. June is the person who helps us work with sponsor members and also with the grant recipients through the proposal and also the report. So June.
Hi, everyone. This is June from DotAsia. I think one key point that we, kind of want to emphasize is we want to help the eligible members get the funds that they can use to help the community. So I do work very closely with the previous members that had submitted the proposal. A lot of times it's back and forth because they could come up with some ideas or write up kind of like a draft of a proposal. They will actually send it to me in advance of the final submission. So to just see if, the ideas are right, whether it's hitting the vision and mission, etc., things like that. So there's actually, I've had meetings with them. I've had email conversations and discussion with them in order to build the proposal together with them. So some members like to do that. Some they will, have everything all planned out. But at the end, they do usually let me take a quick look at it before they do the final submission to make sure once it's submitted, it's something that can flow through smoothly. So we've even had brainstorming sessions on ideas that kind of follows through with the DotAsia mission to ensure that local community schools during the pandemic can have education for kids that can't afford like a computer, for example, or internet, or teachers that don't have internet. So things like this we've supported in the past, and we would come up with ideas together when they ask for it, where we can help them build the proposal together. I'm usually the go-to person when there are SCP questions, as well as any status update during the evaluation process, as well as the end process where you submit the report. So all of that do come back to me. So definitely, if you are interested in sending in a SCP proposal and you have some specific questions, definitely reach out to me and we can work that out together. Thanks, Edmund.
Thank you, June. And with that, I wanted to, I guess, emphasize a couple of things before I'll go to questions. First of all, as Rebecca mentioned, when the SCP funds expire, which is after 4 years, they expire, they actually go into support some of the other community projects at DotAsia, which I explained, like NetMission, like APR IGF, and Eco Internet, and so on. But very importantly, there are smaller CC localities that may have just a handful of registration or 10 registration. Then that means that we have only allocated $10 into the fund. It may not be so useful in terms of SCP kind of a mechanism, but for those CC localities, I think we really encourage you to reach out to us. DotAsia works very closely with different members and also organizations in the Asia Pacific Internet community. We can always try to work together on different projects. It doesn't have to go through the SCP funds. So again, an emphasis is that the SCP funds is only one way that DotAsia supports the community. And we actually have many other works that we do in terms of engaging with members. With that, let me open up the floor and see if anyone has any questions, clarifications that you want from the different aspects of the program. You can.
Edmund, this is Wilson. I have a quick question. Since we don't know the expectation or requirement of the proposal, is it possible to share with us some sample example of proposal so that we can know what kind of information we have to submit in the proposal to get the funding?
Okay. We can certainly look at whether sample makes sense or previous applications, but of course they include some private information. But in terms of what is required, actually the application form is hopefully quite straightforward. It asks for some basic contact information, and then some information about the initiative, and then there are specific
I mean, the
areas.
proposal is filling the form is okay, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And it's,
that's fine. Because I guess we have to submit a formal proposal for funding request. So if a form to fill in, that's good. Okay, thank you.
yeah, so it's the form, and that also the different questions align with the requirements. So we make sure that you respond.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I guess I will again thank you for joining us today, and I will close this session, close the recording of this session. Thank you, June.